So we've seen how to create a basic pivot table. You saw that the default was created in a new sheet, and we're just going to rename that sheet to make it something more meaningful. So we'll call this first pivot. Now, so what we've got here is the basic pivot table that we created, and which I showed you in the first video. Notice that when you click on a pivot table, up here on the menu bar, we now have the pivot table tools. And there are quite a lot of options here. One of the options is, of course, that you don't have to accept the name that it gives by default. So we'll call this one Sales Pivot. But the more important one is the analysis tool. So pivot table tools allows you to have a thing called slicers. And basically slicers is a way of filtering the data to give you more meaningful results. So if I say, for example, insert slicer, then what happens is the headings once more come up. So these are all the headings that we saw on the original sheet that had the data on it. And say we want to slice this data by salesperson. So what I can do is I can click on the salesperson field, press OK, and I get this box coming up, which is the slicer for salesperson. And the reason it's coming up is because it allows me to analyze the data by the individual salespeople which are contained on the pivot table. So say I only want to see Gina's data, then I just click on Gina. And now the data is analysed only for Gina. Similarly, say I wanted to see Alison, I can click on anyone that I want to see, just like that. If I want to clear the slicer, I just click on that little X there and all the data comes back again. Now this is really just another way of showing you how you can filter data. So you may remember from looking at the data options and filtering that you can filter data using the filter option. You also have those options on the pivot table. So if I click on this column labels here and I click down it, you'll see it. The column labels has all the names of all the salespeople on it. So if I want to see Carla's data, I can click on Carla, press OK, and now I only see the data for Carla. So it works in exactly the same way as the slicer option works. The slicer option is probably easier to do. So I can go back to Carla and I can select all. Sorry, I had to select the wrong thing. Select company. Press OK. I can clear that filter by clicking on this filtering option here and select all. That gives me back all of the data again. So if you want to get rid of this, you just select it and hit the delete button, and that slicer is gone. Let's put in another slicer just to illustrate it. So I put in a slicer, and this time I'll select a slicer for customer. Press OK. And now we have the slicer for customer, and I only want to see data for XZY company. So I click on XZY company, and indeed that's the data that I see and nothing else. So that's a very brief introduction to slicers. Thank you.